Good afternoon, Facebook friends and YouTube followers. This is Rich again, back for your second video blog of the day for Saturday, August 16th, around 5 o'clock in Billerica, Massachusetts. A nice sunny day out. Get out and enjoy this nice summer weather because there's not too many more weeks left of summer. Highs is in around 70, but we're feeling a taste of fall right now, and I just hope this is not an early sign for winter. I don't want to see frost in late September and a snowstorm in October, but we'll wait and see about that. Some news to report. The Chicago Bears signed wide receiver Santonio Holmes to a contract, and also NFL Films is finally going to be filming all the games in digital after using film for over 50 years. They finally, in the 21st century, film has been outdated for years, and now digital has been the way to go for many years. So they finally got into the 21st century. And that's about it for the news. And my next video blog is about one of CBS Sports' major faces, Greg Gumbel. Greg Gumbel has been working for CBS Sports for over 25 years. He actually had two stints with CBS Sports, and he's recognized as one of America's most famous sportscasters, play-by-play host. He's done it all. Greg Gumbel was born in New Orleans, and he grew up in the South Side of Chicago. Greg is the older brother of Brian Gumbel, who used to host the Today Show on NBC. He had a sports background of hosting the NFL pregame show for NBC back in the late 70s and early 80s. Now, now Brian hosts Real Sports on HBO, but this is about Greg. And Greg played baseball in college for Lewis College in Iowa, and he graduated from that school with a bachelor's BA in English. For a few years after graduating college, Greg worked in Detroit selling hospital supplies. And in 1973, he started his dream to become he started to work as a sportscaster for the NBC affiliate in Chicago, WMAQ Channel 5, which was an owned and operated NBC affiliate. He worked with his brother in the sports department, Bryant, and he worked for Channel 5 in Chicago for 7 years, 1973 through 1980. Around the 1980, Greg signed with the fledgling new sports cable network ESPN. He was with ESPN for about 5 years. He hosts Sports Center, and he also did some NBA games for ESPN back in the early 1980s when they had the rights to the NBA, and the NBA wasn't as big as it is now. Then around 1985, Greg worked for MSG Networks. He hosted the Knicks pregame show, and also he substituted for Marv Albert from time to time when Marv had NBC assignments. And he also did coverage of college basketball on the MSG network, and he also hosted New York Yankees games on MSG. He even called play-by-play for the New York Yankees in 1989. Then during this time when he was with MSG networks, he worked for WFAN Sports Radio 66. He was his first radio. He hosted his own talk show on Sports Radio WFAN 66 in the morning times, and he was the first morning sports host for WFAN. Now it's he was before Imus in the morning and stuff like that. And then Greg in 1988 signed with CBS Sports to do some regional NFL games. The next year, in 1989, he increased his duties for CBS Sports by hosting the college football game today on CBS, and he also did some college basketball games, including some NCAA tournament games. Around 1990, Greg Gumbel became the face of CBS Sports as he moved from calling NFL games to host the NFL Today on CBS, and he also did NBA games for CBS. He also hosted Major League Baseball games on CBS. He did play-by-play and color for them. Also, he did the College World Series and hosted the 1992 Winter Olympic Games and the 1994 Winter Olympic Games as primetime host. And around 1994, CBS lost the NFL games to Fox, and that's when his contract was running up the June of 1994, and Greg bolted to NBC Sports because CBS didn't have the NFL at the time, and the NFL on NBC was looking for a new like studio host to host their show for like the studio show, because Jim Lampley hosted for a couple of years, but he wasn't a good football host, so they hired Greg Gumbel, and for the next 4 years, Greg Gumbel worked for NBC, doing that, also hosting World Figure Skating Championships. He was a host of the 1996 Summer Olympics during the daytime. He also did NBA play-by-play, and he also did some Major League Baseball games for NBC. By 1998, the NBC lost the rights to NFL games, and they moved back to CBS, and Greg Gumbel bolted back to CBS as well, and he became the primary play-by-play announcer for the NFL games on CBS. He teamed with Phil Simms on that, and he also hosted the NCAA men's basketball tournament for CBS as well, and he also has some other duties like working for Daytona 500. When CBS had the rights, he was the host of the Daytona 500 for a few years. And Greg called 2 Super Bowls while teaming with Phil Simms in the 2001-2004, and in the start of 2004 NFL season, Greg moved back as the host of the NFL Today on CBS. He and like Jim Nantz switched positions. Jim Nantz became the new primary play-by-play announcer for the NFL on CBS, while Greg Gumbel hosted the NFL on CBS. I think like Greg Gumbel's like a better host than a play-by-play announcer, but he did it for 2 years, and then he decided he wanted to go back doing NFL games on CBS, calling them, and this is when CBS Sports signed James Brown away from Fox to do the NFL, to host the NFL Today on CBS. So Greg Gumbel moved back doing play-by-play for NFL games. He became the number 2 play-by-play announcer. His like partner for the next 8 years or so was Dan Dierdorf, and they did like one like divisional playoff game each year for CBS until like 2013 when Dan Dierdorf retired. Greg also continued to host the NCAA men's basketball tournament on CBS, but when they started a partnership with like Turner Sports, he kind of became like the co-host with Ernie Johnson, and he's kind of being phased out of that role because Ernie Johnson's basically now the primary host for the NCAA tournament on CBS/Turner Sports, and probably Ernie's going to do that role from now on, and kind of phasing Greg Gumbel out. And now like Greg Gumbel's was demoted to the number 3 play-by-play announcer for the NFL on CBS. He's going to team with former NFL quarterback Trent Green, and CBS is phasing Greg Gumbel out as like a major face of CBS Sports, but he's still pretty good. This fall, he's going to be the new host of the Inside the NFL on Showtime Network, and that's on Tuesday nights, and that's going to be replayed on Wednesdays on the NFL Network. So Greg Gumbel's still a good studio host. I think he's much better a studio host than play-by-play, my opinion, and I think maybe he might I think he would be good doing it kind of a sports talk show on the CBS Sports Network, because they need like more name recognitions for shows. Maybe he could host a sports show, or like have like during football season have like a football talk show, having a week, one interview a week with a current NFL player, coach, or maybe a broadcaster or something. That would get good ratings for CBS Sports. And people used to call Greg Gumbel like Brian Gumbel's brother, but no, but Greg has been a great star on his own, and he's probably maybe a little more. He's had a better sports broadcasting career than Brian Gumbel had, I think, in my humble opinion. So it's good that Greg Gumbel's still going strong right now, and he's closing in on 70 years old. But I think he's going to stick around for many more years. I think he hasn't lost a step at all. Not like other play-by-play announcers when they get into the late 60s or early 70s. Most of them kind of, their play-by-play is off, but Greg's still sharp, even, and his studio hosting still great than ever. So I think he's going to be around for a while. Well, that's about it, and I'm going to be back for my third and final video blog of the night. I'm not going to tell you what it is. It's going to be a surprise. And good feedback on these video blogs. I love the feedback, and if you want to shout out, PM me. And if you want any subject you want me to discuss, PM me as well. I'll talk about anything except politics or personal stuff, okay? Bye.